green movement is fast becoming global. It's no longer a priority for the developed world only, but for newly industrializing and emerging economies too. We now speak to our geopolitical analyst, William Gumede, about what green projects mean for Africa. Good evening, William. As always, good to have you with us. Now, of course, there's a call for Africa to shift from being a net exporter of raw materials, but how do we link this objective with that of getting into green projects and sustainable development?
You know, traditionally, we've measured economic growth in, GDP in a very narrow economic sense. Now, the argument is now what we should be doing we should actually include, the impact of growth on the environment, or, look at it differently, how can we grow in such a way that, we don't harm the environment? And that really is the challenge, not only for Africa, but for other industrial and developing countries. In a sense, I mean, if you look at the African context, we still, our ecological footprint, that is, in terms of pollution and so on, compared to the other regions, we're still less. But we less because we don't have the same kind of industrial development. We don't have the massive factories, electricity generation, and so on. So potentially, the green economy offers us lots of possibilities because we could grow into the future in a way that doesn't harm the economy, the environment.
Now, as you say there, I mean, Africa's carbon footprint is very small. It seems so unfair that though our contribution to the challenges our environment is experiencing is very small, but the impact, the way that we feel it perhaps, is even more than other countries do when you look at food insecurity on the continent, when you look at drought and other such things. So what really is our expectation then of developed economies? No, absolutely. Although we as a continent, as a region, we produce less of the ecological footprint, but for us, for Africa, the environment is even more critical. Why is it more critical? I think the first place is that our growth so far, the last 10 years, spectacular growth, we haven't seen it for the last 50 or even 100 years, is been on the back of resources that we're exporting. So we're taking the land and elements of the land, of the environment, and so on. So these resources could, of course, be depleted quite soon if you don't manage it very sustainably. Secondly, also from a social point of view, what is happening here is that most Africans across the continent actually live on the land. People are, they're farmers, very small or big-scale farmers, or just, their little sort of, garden farming at home. Now, our problem is if we destroy that, we destroy their livelihood. The same, for example, fisheries for you. I mean, like almost 5% of Africa's GDP actually come out of the waters, out of fishery. So if we deplete that, then, lots of people are not going to have a livelihood. So, the environment really is key for us. And yet, William, there's of course, there's also the need to continue to build roads in Africa, to continue to have more hospitals, schools, etc. Our industrialization must continue. How do we do so while looking after the environment? I mean, are we seeing that political leaders are really putting in the right types of policies in place to meet both of these objectives?
Yeah, our challenge really is, I mean, it's not only a challenge, but also an opportunity, because what we could do now going forward, in order to make this green economy happen and to work, if we have to use our natural resources better. For example, I mean, we don't need to build nuclear plants, but we can use solar and wind energy. These are the materials, the ground materials that Africa have already. I mean, many people actually, what we call it Africa actually has natural capital. Natural capital just means we got wind, we got the sun and so on. So we must use the technology available to grow by using that. And that's going to be really important for us.
All right, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, William.
Thank you.
Cool.